Hello and welcome to Monday Mug Mentions, week number 17. Good afternoon. I hope you're all doing very well. I can hardly believe we are 17 weeks into this segment. I am enjoying myself so much getting to hang out with all of you. It's a real blast just getting to chat and all that sort of stuff in this little segment where over the course of a cup of coffee, I chat about a few things in the tabletop industry that interest me. Hello, Rob, John, Yuri. Thank you all for joining me this wonderful Monday afternoon, whether you're returning from your travels from Origins or you're going back to work or you're just doing your normal thing. Welcome. It's nice to see you. I'm glad you're all here. I am so glad to see you, Jennifer Graham Mac. So good to see you. I got to watch your talk live on Tabletop Network, and I really enjoyed it. The perspectives of all the different four corners, I really, really like that. That's a really clever talk. I hope to hear you do that again. This week, Yuri says it's hot but good. It is warm here too. I've got the AC on and I've got my fan blowing at me. So if you hear a little of that sound, it's just because it's also hot here in Rhode Island today. Hello, Brad Taylor. Happy Monday to you as well, sir. I am so glad to see all these smiling faces this morning. It is really, really nice to pop in here and see you all on Monday. Each week. This really is a fun way to start the week for me. I hope it is for you too. So let's get into it. This week I am drinking some delicious Vermont Coffee Company organic medium. I actually have the bag here. I got a few things to show you guys while we talk about the coffee and take our first few sips and get rolling. Derek Funkhauser, thank you so much for being here. Good to see you. Ian Moss, Zach Connolly, so good to see you guys. Thank you all for joining. I'm really, really glad to see you. I'm going to do one thing here real quick, and I'm going to pop over so I can actually see your comments a little bit better. There we go. I think I got it all fixed now where I can see your live comments. Beautiful. I wish I could see your live faces. I miss so many of you. I know a lot of you had a lot of fun this weekend at Origins, and I was not able to be there because I was taking care of my awesome baby. Some of you might have seen some baby pictures this weekend. Father's Day was amazing. We had a blast. I have a new cup here. Let me turn it here. It says best dad ever. That's for my family. I'm the best dad for my family. Any of you who are dads or have a dad, that's the best dad ever for your family. I think that's, but for my family, they think I'm the best dad ever, and I was very, very fortunate to get a cup saying so. Okay, so first of all, here is Vermont Coffee Company. It is really, really cool. Let's see here. If you look at the bag, it says Vermont Organic Coffee Company. Nice big bag. This is whole bean. There's a reason I'm buying whole bean now, and I'll tell you guys in just a second. I've got that over here too. It's really cool. My wife went above and beyond this Father's Day. She really didn't have to do all the things she did. She really did a bunch for me. So, okay. So what you'll see here, though, is that it says coffee roasted for friends. And I really like that. You guys are my friends, and I'm happy to see you guys. And each week, I think it's really, really fun to get to check in with my friends. Okay, let's get right into it. So this Vermont organic coffee is really delicious. I think this may be one of my new favorites. I have to try some other of my favorites, but good morning, Chad, Zach. So good to see you. And that is because my wife got me this amazing Cuisinart burr grinder that just demolishes the coffee beans, and I don't have to sit there and grind by hand anymore. And I put the beans in here, and in like 2 minutes, they're ground up in like espresso ground if I want. So I was really thankful. Courtney, thank you so much. I love you so much. You did too much. When I say she did too much, I mean it. If you'll notice, I have a new watch on, and I'm wearing that now. And she also got me that for Father's Day, which was a little too much. And then the boys, somewhere around here, also got me something very cool. So I wanted to show you that the boys got me. This is Visit from the Rhine Valley. This is some different visitor cards for viticulture that just came out. So I was really, really happy to have that. So let's see here. I'm going to check out some comments. Chad, good morning. So good to see you. Zach said I only had one cup of coffee the entire time I was at Origins. I disagree wholeheartedly with that notion, and that sounds miserable to me. Unless you're trying to kick coffee, in which case, more power to you. That still sounds miserable to me. Yuri, Gerald, good to see you. Good afternoon. Yuri says, thank you for supporting the organic industry. My in-laws are organic farmers. Hey, I am happy to do it. I think that's actually probably the best way to it's fair trade is also, and that is a fair trade coffee as well. So fair trade and organic are things I tend to look for now that people have sort of educated me on what that means. Yeah, Derek says, Zach, that's bad for your health, 2 to 4 cups a day. I wholeheartedly agree with that. All right. Oh, only one good cup. You had a bunch of bad cups of coffee. I am so sorry to hear that, Zach. That is even worse. Bad coffee is no good. Brad says, saw that watch on Facebook. Looks great. Yeah, it is a beautiful watch. I'm a watch guy as well. I have a whole glass little case of watches, which my old one is retired to now until I clean it up. But I love watches. There's something about a timepiece and the way it ticks and like the little moving pieces inside and everything. I really love watches. That's one of my big things. So, you guys are so active this morning. Lisa, hello. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us this morning. I hope you're enjoying a cup of coffee or a nice beverage to start your day here or the middle of the day. Zach and Gerald, Gerald says I was there 4 hours and drank 3 cups of coffee. I think that's a perfect ratio, Gerald. I appreciate that. No coffee, only tea for Rob. I remember that, Rob. You were a tea guy. Derek says, I missed Gerald at Origins. I missed all of you at Origins. I really would have wished I could have been there. Like, it looked amazing. I got to be honest. There was a little piece of me inside that was like, oh, that would be so fun to be there. At the same time, I was, like, hanging out with this awesome baby that we got in here. And I have been enjoying the heck out of that. I gotta admit. So, all right. So let's get into it this week because I don't want to run it too long on you. I don't want to run too long on you. You're all just getting back into it. You are getting going for the week. So let's talk about this week's sort of thing. And this week's thing, in terms of games, is player elimination and how it's done in different ways. And I think I was going to talk about the tabletop, but I think this time I'm going to talk about the digital side first, and then we'll shift to the tabletop because I'm just going to do a brief thing on the digital side here. So I'll put up my visual aids, as you've all seen. So Brendan Green is known as Player Unknown. He made a game tiny little game. Some of you may have heard about it. It's called Player Unknown's Battlegrounds. The joke there is Player Unknown's Battlegrounds is sold, I think, 70-something million copies right now. It's an indie game. Was done by essentially a single studio. The entire premise of the game is essentially player elimination down to one person. It's what you would consider a 1 versus 99. 100 people dropped into a map. You're going to see here a very, very poor example. Sorry, right here, a very poor example of how to play this game. However, the point is that the entire game is based around player elimination, gathering guns and weapons and shooting each other, last person alive. And then it's called a battle royale. That's essentially exactly correct. So as I peek over at the comments here, I notice that some folks left Sunday at Origins. I understand that too. And Ian saw Gerald. That's fantastic. My favorite people seeing my favorite people is some of my favorite things to see. Although I think you guys live like relatively close to each other, Gerald and Ian, unless Ohio is much bigger than I envision. Battle Royale, correct. So if anybody is aware of it, there's a movie called Battle Royale that's actually a pretty big deal. It's old. It's very graphic, but it is a movie about this same situation where some students are dropped on an island and various weapons and things are left around, and they fight to the death, and whoever is alive wins. That's of course. They're the only one alive, so of course they win, right? It's a very, very strange sort of movie, but it's a very, very interesting movie. I like it. It's the creator of this game has said that he's very inspired by the movie Battle Royale, and you can see that in the game. The weapons they use and all that are very similar to the ones in the film. So you'll see here there's an airplane. You're riding in it, all 100 of you, and you drop out anywhere on the map that you'd like. You drop down, you go and you try and grab a gun. You go and you fight until you're dead. It's straight up player elimination. I mean, if you die in the first 10 seconds, you're done. You're out. You can go start a new game. If you are fighting to the last, 30 minutes in, and you die in second place, that doesn't matter. It's first place is what's important. If you get first place, there's a screen that comes up and says winner, winner, chicken dinner. For about 35 seconds, that clears off, and then it's gone. So it really is an interesting situation where you have this game where like even the win is only this temporary yes, and it's they have some cosmetic items, but for the most part, the game is simply this right here: running around, picking up some items. You'll see, I think this situation here, my character dies in 64th place, which is absolutely terrible. That's not good. You can hide and try and survive longer. I think I was trying to make a quick video for this segment to show off, that the point of the game is player elimination, and people tend to enjoy it. 70 million people have purchased the game. So anyone who says that player elimination as a mechanic doesn't work in games just as a whole is wrong, or it's not something you can sell is wrong, because this experience, like it or not, is one of the best-selling experiences of the last year, and it is an experience, like to run around solo. And there are, don't get me wrong, there are 2-player and 4-player versions of this game where you can drop in with friends and fight as a team. That is also fun, but the experience was designed as this: 1 versus 100, and so it's or 1 versus 99 to survive to the end. And that is compelling because you're alone. You're gathering items. The better items you have, better armor you have, the better opportunity you have. So you'll see I shot at some people from across just here in this situation, just from across a field. You wouldn't normally do that. I'm trying to get people to sort of knock me out so I can get the video done in a pretty quick amount of time. So this is compelling. Like, this is very compelling. Now, in terms of board games, you could not probably have a 99-person game where everyone's standing around, right? And Fortnite is another one. There is no end to Realm Royale. There is no end to the spin-offs of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which was not the first. There have been many games that were 50 versus 1 or 49 versus 1. This is just the most successful. And the most recognizable, so it's the easiest to talk about and sort of piggyback this mechanic of player elimination being fun. I'd rather play some other games too. Battle Royale is not my favorite game, but I still play with my friends pretty often because that's what they play, and I enjoy the duos and the four groups. But that point is that player elimination is still fun in this situation. Like people enjoy it and they're compelled to play it, and there's millions of concurrent players playing different games with this one mechanic of player elimination as their primary driving mechanism. And so that's something that when people get together and say like, oh man, player elimination's bad. Well, I mean, there are situations where it's not the best thing to use, but definitely not bad. Like, you've got to look at the whole, and this game clearly proves that player elimination is absolutely compelling. 99 people, you can go out in the first 10 seconds and start again, so people enjoy that. So think about that when you're designing for sure, and that like maybe thinking something's bad and just writing it off is a poor stance sometimes. So hello, Gil, James, so many of you have joined. So good to see you. David, good afternoon. I hope you're having some wonderful coffee. So you saw my terrible foray into PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Now I want to talk about a board game that has some player elimination as well, and this is Eclipse. Eclipse is a 4X game where you're fighting. You're all you're 4X if you don't know, aren't aware. As I believe, expand, explore, explore, expand. I'm going to forget the other two because I'm trying to do this live right now. But essentially, you're growing your empire. Eventually, you're going to fight each other. I think extinguish or exterminate is one of the two. I don't remember. Anyway, somebody in the chat will prove me silly here any moment. So Eclipse has player elimination. You can get killed and you're gone, and other people are going to continue the game. And like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, people tend to enjoy Eclipse. I think there's some fundamental problems with the game. I think that it is a fun experience. I really enjoy the experience of Eclipse. I have some issues with a couple of like combinations of things that could be done to just overpower other players in the game, i.e. like going all in on missiles. Missiles really don't miss once you get enough of them, so every time you roll the die, you're blowing up your opponents. I think that should be exploit and exterminate. There we go. Thank you. There, I knew you guys would get it. Thank you, I appreciate it. So essentially, Eclipse is a good version, like a smaller, kind of Twilight Imperium, but there's a couple of issues that kept me from continuing to play it regularly. And one of those is that you can streamline into the missiles, roll dice till everyone's dead, and then you kind of win the game. It's hard for anyone to beat that. This is exponentially worse on the PC version, which is digital, where you can see the system work quickly. So it's something that I hope that they address, and then they're doing a new edition. I really hope that they address that. That's one of my big hopes for that. If they don't address that, I probably won't be playing it. If they do, I might pick it up. I love 4X games. I love space games. I enjoyed my first few plays of Eclipse, but once I realized that strategy existed and was pretty much what the winning player would aim for most times, that becomes a little bit of a turnoff. So, but Eclipse has player elimination. It is a compelling experience. Even to be eliminated and watch the game sort of play out can be compelling, as long as you're not too enraged about being knocked out. And I enjoy it. I mean, I think as a whole, my first few plays were very, very compelling, and the experience of exploring these different tiles and finding out what would be on them was very compelling. I really enjoyed playing with the group that I played with as well, because we all sort of took on this, these factions of our own, and we were using the asymmetry of the boards very well, it felt like. So, and I think that's baked into the design as well. So again, player elimination can be good if you give a player a compelling experience while around it. So thank you guys for filling that in. I really, really appreciate it. Gil says drinking Sumatra. That sounds delicious. But Brad Taylor says currently trying to get this to the table again. Never had anyone eliminated before, though. Oh, I've been eliminated. My friend Austin Rucker blew me out of the sky a few times when we played when he lived here, and it was brutal. I was a little enraged. He knocked me the heck out of the game. It happens. But I like that. I mean, in a real 4X game, that's what you do to the other players as you go around, like, in any big, not to say that Eclipse isn't real, but any big, digital 4X game is mostly battle-based with a lot of expansion and exploration as well. So I think that's a fun, compelling experience. But let's move on to the media that I want to talk about this week and get this big box out of your face here. And we'll get that stuff out of the way. And this week I want to talk about a group that it's just two people, as far as I know. They may have some camera folks, but they're fantastic. This is Amanda and Edward over at Heavy Cardboard, heavycardboard.com. They have a YouTube channel that's got some fantastic stuff. Number one main thing that I have taken from Heavy Cardboard is learning how to play games in a short amount of time by watching their videos. So I really think that in a regular board gamer's life, you need a way to check in on stuff to go find out about videos. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about Heavy Cardboard, but I see a couple questions here. So Gil Mello says, I prefer player elimination than a game you get stuck with no chance. I think so. Right? If you're sitting there playing and you're not going to win, would it be better to be knocked out to move on to the next thing? I think so. I agree with that as well, Gil. Derek says, Marshall, can you talk about how you think player elimination games should handle the mechanic? I personally think the evolution is to allow eliminated players to ghost and still be involved in some capacity. Carthage does this. I know Grim Masquerade is going to as well. Dead Man's Doubloons does this too. You can actually come back from the dead. If your ship is blown up, it becomes a ghost ship. It's no longer that. Actually, my very first design, Shipload of Gold, is a game where people are pirate captains, and essentially the weather is moving coins to the left and the right around a table. Players have cards that they can use to keep that from happening or to steal from other players, and then there's a central pot. It's built on left, center, right, and then it's got powers around it. There's a lot of flaws with it, but it plays up to 8 players, and anytime somebody's knocked out, they're not out. They're sitting there, and if the weather pushes a coin to the left, they're right back in the game. And there's some mechanisms for the catch-up there. If you have one coin and a certain thing happens, you get a lot more stuff. So it's you can work that in, but that's not player elimination then. In my opinion, ghost players or a side sort of game that's after you're knocked out that you can either get back in or not, either way, is not player elimination, because the player's not done. You're not out. You're not finished. Player elimination to me is you are out. You are finished. You may spectate, but you are out. And in both of those examples, they're like Player Unknown's Battlegrounds. You're done. In the solo version, there's no way to get picked back up or anything. Once you're shot, you're down. That's it. Somebody takes your stuff, and you can watch for a little bit, but that's it. You're done. So same thing with Eclipse. Once you're knocked out, there's no way to get back into the game. You're done, and it can be a compelling experience. So I do think that Ghost players are a cool way to negate, player elimination, but it definitely is no longer a player elimination game if somebody is still able to participate, even by influencing the game slightly from the outside. Stephen Barry says, Ghost players or down players can be really meh. Looking at Sentinels of the Multiverse. Yeah, there's a lot of examples of it being good and bad. Like, I think Dead Man's Doubloons does it wonderfully. Going into the Ghost ship is a whole different sort of game. And then, you really have a nice pivot there. There's a few games where I think that the knocked out player that, sort of comes back in is good, but there are a bunch where I'm not thrilled with the way it works either. So I agree with that. Brad says, I guess we're not aggressive enough. I don't mind player elimination so long as the game doesn't last much longer than the first knockout. I think that's a key point in player elimination. If the game's 2 hours long and somebody can get knocked out in the first 15 minutes, you need to have some sort of mechanism for them to start a new game or something else, right? You can't just go, oh, you're out, and we're going to play for another hour and 45 minutes. Sorry. I mean, that's not compelling. That's not fun for that player. And it shouldn't really be fun for the other 3 or 4 or however many players continue to watch one player just sit there bored for a long time, right? So it's definitely important to keep that in mind. Gil says Armada Rock. She does all the editing. If I'm not, Amanda Rocks. She does all the editing. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I want to talk about heavy cardboard as well. Right now, we're going to move into that. There's some games that have improved upon it. Yeah, I think that's a good pivot. But I think player elimination does mean you're out. Like, I think actually eliminating someone doesn't mean there's any way to like participate any longer. Jennifer says, but like you just said before with PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, or PUBG is what a lot of people call it, and I do as well. She said you just leave and immediately go relaunch a new game. So there's the rub. How do you do that with a board game, right? How does someone get knocked out and go start a new game? Because you need a lot of people for that in one place. That is something that I think could be very, very interesting in terms of playing games in a round. And I don't mean in a round like we're round 1, round 2, round 3. Think of a round the way a song is sung. So, for instance, what's a row, row, row your boat, right? If we were to start singing row, row, row your boat, and then we sung it in a round, by the time somebody gets to Merrily Down the Stream, somebody else is saying at the same time, row, row, row your boat. Playing a game in a round in that way, in like the way that a round that a song works. Whereas if you're knocked out, okay, you begin row, row, row your boat again. And they may be merrily down the stream, merrily, 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 and somebody else is starting row, row, row your boat, right? So you could do that in a compelling way with a game, but that's a hell of a design challenge. Like, there's a lot to consider there. I think that would be a really fun challenge to say design a game with a system that has that same thing of like a round song, where you can start it sort of at any verse at the beginning, and everybody can just keep doing it and doing it and doing it over and over again. Just coming back as a new player and respawning, though, is not the I guess that is one way to do it. It would be a new map, right, though? Like, if we're doing the way that a PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds would be, it'd be a new map or a new area. So there's definitely compelling ways to do it. That is a deep, deep design challenge. Gil says my favorite is Shadows over Camelot. That is one of the top 10 player elimination games on Board Game Geek. Eclipse is very high up there as well. I looked at a few that were available. Shadows over Camelot, I think I've only played once, so I need to play it again. I've heard a lot of good things about it. Again, one of the things I probably didn't play it for was people said, oh, it's got player elimination. So I'm going to focus on playing things that I maybe had tried to stay away from a lot more in the near future, because those sort of things have been compelling to me. Things that I've been like, I don't like that type of game. Mostly Social Deduction is the one that I've never liked. I've never loved that type of game. But I do have some really fun memories of playing some games with it, and so I need to learn what my hesitation is about it, or if it's just the same experience over and over again, or what the case would be. So Gerald says they just have to come back as a new player. So yeah, eliminating the player doesn't always mean eliminating the person from the game, just killing their player character. I agree. I think that's another way to mitigate sort of like full-on player elimination. Sean Pittman says Werewolf does good for the storytelling aspect and keeps people intrigued that have been eliminated. Yeah, so again, there's another really good one. Like Werewolf, you stay and watch the story usually. Although I have seen a lot of times where in like the convention run Werewolves, when people are out, they're like, all right, I'm going to get some food. I'll see y'all later. And I think that's part of where that breaks down for me, is when people aren't invested in the experience. Jennifer says that's an awesome design challenge. Well, thank you. This is spit cuff. I mean, this is just spitting off the cuff here. I'm thinking that Player Unknown's Battlegrounds is just so amazing and compelling for a lot of reasons, but I don't know if it translates well to the board game space. I will admit, we went and we were seeking the license for it, and we were unsuccessful. So I've passed that torch to some other people with better funds who might be able to make it happen. But it's a tough thing to do. To translate that exact experience, Player Unknown's Battlegrounds, to a board game, you would have a heck of a challenge. You definitely would. And the designer that had put it together was probably the kind of person who I think would probably be able to do it. He's a very, very smart and a luminary, in my opinion. So I think he would have been able to knock it out of the park, but it just didn't happen. Gerald says Tuesday Night Games has a cool open table mechanic. By the way, I'm gonna replace mechanic anytime somebody types it with mechanism. I'm trying to get on board with this board game terminology sort of group, and I think mechanism is the word I'm going to start using instead of mechanic. We can talk about that some other time, but I may say mechanism instead, just because I'm trying to sort of help establish the terminology for this sort of group of board game consortium, I guess is what it's called, and we'd like to standardize the language a little bit. It just makes it easier for this to chat about. So a mechanism that allows players to come in and out of the game, Russian roulette, where players can be eliminated. That's interesting too. I think that's pretty compelling. Player elimination seems to be a very hot topic. Sean says Execution Force by Games Workshop, quick enough, or GW, I think Games Workshop, quick enough game where eliminated not to be far off. So it's very cool. But I do want to talk about Heavy Cardboard for just a moment. I want to talk about their how to play videos and all that sort of stuff, as well as the way that their channel is presented in such a professional way. Their YouTube channel, their page, it's unbelievably professional. It's everything I look at. I really, really like the way it is. And for two people to be running that is really incredible. So Amanda and Edward seem to know what they're doing. I've never met them in person. I just follow the page. And what I want to say, the biggest one, is that I learned how to play Feudum using their video and taught other people via that learning, essentially, of how to play Feudum. Now, I did have to go to the rule book for things here and there, but I mean, for the overall how to play Feudum, generally about a 3-hour teach, their video sped up to, what I'll do with a lot of videos. This is not to... with almost anybody's teaching video, I speed it up to 2 times the speed. So it's just you're firing off the cuff, because I retain that information better that way. Unless you're a person who speaks really fast like Rado, I can't do that in general. So I love that way of things working. And the Heavy Cardboard does it perfectly, where I hit 2 times and they are just giving me the information at a perfect speed. And I'm just getting what I need to know about how to play that game, seeing the moving parts around with the game actually there in front of you. It's brilliant. It's the way you should learn games, is to watch people run you through the main rules, especially if you're going to be the person who's going to teach. If you're going to teach the game, you really need to have that kind of visualization, in my opinion. That's the way I've done it. So Heavy Cardboard knocks it out of the park. I really, really appreciate a lot of their videos have taught me how to teach games better. And that's something that I think is invaluable in the board game industry. So definitely, I think something you should check out. If you're not subscribed to their YouTube channel, go check it out. I've never met them. I look forward to meeting them sometime in the future. Derek says Edward is a fantastic and very nice person. I've not met Amanda. Well, that's great to hear. They seem very genuine. So, and I love all the comments about loving the standardized language. I think that's important to board game designers. It gives us it's just a faster way to work in design if we all have a standardized language, for sure. So, Heavy Cardboard, again, check it out. You definitely should be learning games and going over those videos, even if you want a quick refresher. They're perfect for that. So, and the last thing I really want to talk about this week in terms of the marketing is something just really, really cool. I recently sort of stumbled upon this. I've heard Jamie Stegmaier talk a lot about Instagram lately, and I post to Instagram. both pictures of my family and pictures of my, gaming nights out. And, it's just sort of a glimpse into my personal life as well as my gaming life. I don't post a lot of company stuff on there. It's just more games and game related content because, that's what I enjoy doing. I enjoy taking pictures of games and things like that, right? So I went over and I kind of was like, well, Jamie's interested in using Instagram more, sort of in a similar way that I use it, which is just to take pictures of things he's doing. Or I think, he even took pictures of brownies he made at one point. And it's just, fun stuff. You give people a glimpse into your life, which is great. I like, I get to talk with y'all online, and then you get to go and look at that sort of thing. It's fun. But I wanted to know, like, well, who's capitalizing on whatever this Instagram marketing stuff is, or who's really, really plugged into their engaged fans on Instagram. And I come to find out that Lego is one of the most popular brands, I'm sorry, not one of the most. Lego is the most popular brand on Instagram. With 2.6 million followers, they have an incredible page with all sorts of different Lego things. I mean, people moving and doing little animations, little Lego weddings to help celebrate the royal wedding. They have, if it's Lego and it's something trending, that's what's on their Instagram. That to me is a really smart and incredible way to engage with your fans, to use your product in a way that's like, unbelievably trendy and engaging and like current. Like it's so Lego has a very, very, like, they're lucky. They can just about, if you can imagine or envision it, a Lego builder could probably make it, right? So they already have a great product that allows them to do that. But being able to go on and engage on Instagram seems very strong for them, and the way they do it is something we can all learn from. If you have a game that is about something that is even remotely related to something that is a current event, you should probably post something about that on Instagram. If you have, anything in that lane of things that are happening now, you generally are going to want to post something on Instagram with that. It just seems to be the trend and the smart way to operate. So with Lego, if you go look, everything they post is something that's happening, in the trend using Legos. Not all of us have product lines that stretch that far, for sure. But if there was anything about Stir Fry in the news that was positive, I would probably post things about Stir Fry 18. If there was a major thing about guitars, or it was National Rock Guitar Day, I would probably want to post something about Record. I mean, it just seems reasonable, and it seems like a smart, fun thing to do and another fun way to engage. Rob says Instagram is a lot of work. Social media is a lot of work, man. I'll be honest. I love hanging out with you guys and doing a video each week, but if you don't think that that's a little bit of work, it certainly is. I mean, posting and having fun with people online, and talking about stuff on Facebook is work too. It's not always like super pleasant. Yesterday I had an unpleasant exchange where I thought I was just trying to make some, make things a little more polite and nice in a certain area, and it turned into sort of not what I really, breakdown in communication, if you will. So, I mean, social media is work. It's really, you definitely want to treat it with the respect it deserves, because I think if you don't, it can be very, very difficult. So, Steven says, is there any way to do Instagram on a PC? No, unfortunately, you've got to use a mobile device. That is one of the stipulations. You can view it on a PC, but you cannot post to it. You've got to have it plugged into your mobile device, and that's just part of it. That's as many of you know, Andrew, my partner, is not on Facebook or any of that. So it's that's. I totally understand that some people do not like using any social media, prefer to stay off of that sort of stuff, and that's totally fine too. That's we are lucky that we usually get to engage those fans at conventions or things like that. But yeah, large majority of you, as you can see, are here hanging out with us and having cups of coffee and stuff like that. So I really appreciate it. This was an incredible way to hang out this week. I really appreciate the talks about player elimination. This seems to be something you guys are very interested in, so we should probably talk about that more. I guess each week I kind of have been posting a little community question. Let's post a sort of let's do a community question before we say goodbye this week. I think here's my player elimination question. If you were to try to design the most compelling player elimination game you could, how quickly would you be able to eliminate players, and how quickly should that game end? So two answers to the question. You guys can answer in the comments or on the video when we post it later today with the actual question under it. I'll post it from YouTube and on the Anaguana page. But yeah, how long should a player elimination game be, and how quickly into that game can you be eliminated? That's the question. That's what I'm interested in. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you had a fantastic Father's Day. I hope you have a fantastic week. I hope all of you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful design right in front of you, and you're just tinkering away at it, and you bring it to me, and we make the thing soon. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you hanging out. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.